Good morning, everyone. It's finally Friday. It's Friday, November 1st, 2019. 28 degrees outside. Tommy Goff, your morning mayor in the house. Shane Matabin, half man, half amazing in Vancouver, British Columbia, my co-host. And we want to welcome you to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. We're here every Monday through Friday, 6 to 9. And how you doing, Shane?
Oh, survived Halloween, so it's great. The only day of the year that we people in Canada can have fireworks, so people are up pretty late.
Really? You get fireworks on Halloween, huh? Not on your
Canada Day? Nope.
Yeah, you don't have your Canada Day. I was thinking, yeah.
July 1st, yeah.
Yeah,
nope.
July 1st,
And not on New Year's.
Really?
You guys have them on 4th of July and New Year's, right?
Well, yeah, we have them on almost any holiday you want to name if you want to. We have them on Arbor Day. you can have them any day you want. But, yeah. No, it's, we have big fireworks stands here, and we sell fireworks all over the place. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's huge fireworks displays here, done by the cities as well on Halloween. So
okay, yeah, but the cities don't do anything on New Year's or anything like that. I mean, all over the country, all over the world, they, you sit there on New Year's Eve and you watch it in Australia, and then it goes around the world, and all these fireworks things are going on, and Canada's just sitting there with what do you?
They have some fireworks downtown in the harbor.
Yeah.
On New Year's, that the city pays for, and then of course the government pays for the fireworks on July 1st. The federal government.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because all cities have a little fireworks.
I was going to say, what do? You sit out on the porch and whittle while New Year's happens, or what?
Basically. Yeah, because you can't really buy anything that's a firework.
Wow.
You get these little tiny firecrackers.
Yeah. No
pop bottle rockets. It's
you can't celebrate a holiday without a few bottle rockets. Come on.
Can't have them. Nope, they're illegal.
Oh, jeez.
They start fires.
Oh, man. I don't know. All right. Oh, God. Quick look at our Gallatin Valley weather. We got a 20% chance of snow before 7 a.m. It was snowing a little bit when I came in this morning. We're looking for a high that's 38 degrees. It's going to be sunny today, so it should be pretty nice. Not much snow accumulation at all, if any. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 18 degrees. And then on Saturday for the Bobcat game, increasing clouds with a high near 45. So it should be perfect football weather out there for the Cats. And we'll be looking for them to beat up on, they play on Southern Utah, I believe. They're going to beat up on those guys, yeah. All right, Saturday night, mostly cloudy with a low around 25. And on Sunday, we got a chance of snow before 3 a.m., or 3 p.m. rather, and then a chance of rain, mostly cloudy with a high around 46. Chance of precipits about 30%. Little or no snow is expected. And then on Sunday night, we got a chance of rain before 9 p.m., then a chance of rain and snow between 9 p.m. and midnight, then a chance of snow after midnight. And it's going to be cloudy with a low around 28 on Sunday night. Chance of precipits about 50%. New snow accumulation of maybe less than a half inch is possible. Then on Monday, for your commute back to work, a chance of snow before 3 p.m. and then a chance of rain and snow. It's going to be cloudy with a high near 43 on Monday. And then a slight chance of rain and snow before 9 p.m. Monday night. And then a chance of snow between 9 and midnight. Mostly cloudy with a low around 27. And then on Tuesday, a chance of rain and snow between noon and 3 p.m. Then a chance of rain after 3 p.m. Partly cloudy. And on Tuesday, the high will be near 44. Temperatures around the area right now, we've got Livingston checks in at 28 degrees, mostly cloudy over there. Manhattan is 21. Three Forks is 18. Gallatin Gateway is 24. Ennis is 21. Big Sky is 12. And at the airport in Belgrade right now, it's 24 degrees. And currently in our lavishly appointed downtown studios, it is 28 balmy degrees here. Much better than the single digits we had before at 10 minutes past the hour. What's your weather up there, Shane?
Blue sky and 48 degrees.
All right. That's pretty good. Our poll question from yesterday, will Hillary Clinton enter the presidential race? 66% of you said no, she would be bad for the U.S. Only 6% said yes, she would beat Trump like a drum. And we had other responses. This woman is insane. Put her in the White House, not likely. Yes was an answer. Yes, and Trump will beat her. She can't wait for them to beg her to run. Yes, she is delusional. No, but yes, it would be fantastic to watch President Trump toss her out. God, I hope not. Hillary is not only a has-been. She is and ever was. She should be in jail. I like Shane's idea. I'm not sure what Shane's idea was, but they like it, Shane. Hopefully.
Mine was the open convention concept.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you think it's going to be an open convention. Hopefully, but she can't win, and depends on which current candidate is suicided. And then an open convention, yes. So
they're circulating the new idea that they get rid of Trump by impeachment and Pence by impeachment, and the great Pelosi becomes president.
Ooh, now that would be a scary thought. Our poll question today, are you for or against Bozeman annexation? As many of you know, we reported the other day that Bozeman City Commission has voted to annex any areas that are completely surrounded by the city, and that's going to affect about 500 homeowners who are going to have to put in water and sewer and streets and impact fees and street lights and sidewalks and everything else, and it's going to be at their expense. So we're not very happy about, or at least 500 homeowners aren't very happy that they're going to have to be saddled with all of those costs. So in the early voting right now, we got very early voting. 75% of you think that you're against. People will lose their homes due to fees, and some probably will. 25% of you think for. Folks need to pay their fair share, and that's a good point. If they're living in the city, surrounded by the city, and they're not paying, the fees to the city and all of that, but taking advantage of all the city streets and all the city services and things like that. Well, they don't have water and sewer. They've got septic tanks and wells, but we'll see how the folks vote on that. Also, don't forget, we've only got a few days left. Next Thursday is the deadline to vote for Shane and myself in the BozemanMagazine.com readers poll. Go to BozemanMagazine.com/best-of and vote for us in the 2020 reader poll. We're up for favorite local celebrity. We're up for our station's up for best news source. Shane and I are up for local radio DJ. We're also up for the best local radio show, the Morning Soapbox, of course, and best radio station. And I'm also up for most luscious local radio voice. How could you not vote for this voice?
How would you not know to vote for it?
I know, that's that's the interesting part, isn't it? So. All right, let's see other things we got going on today. Of course, we got to talk a little bit about this day in history and 1512. I remember 1512, don't you, Shane? Yeah. Michelangelo's painting on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel were first exhibited to the public.
That's right. He was a citizen of Florence, the Republic of Florence, because at that time Italy was city-states. But this individual, incredible, 6th of March, 1475, 18th of February, 1564. Of all the trips I took to Europe, my trip to Italy was probably my favorite. I spent a great deal of time in museums, and beyond belief, this is by far the single greatest artist and sculptor. I mean, it's beyond belief to be able to even try to explain the contemporary work of his time with the tools that he used and the work. His preference, of course, was to be a sculptor. The Pope at the time insisted that he paint the Sistine Chapel that had actually been built by someone that he had trained or designed and built by someone he had trained. But the Sistine Chapel is a series of panels, and it's very impressive. And it's in the chapel that the cardinals of Rome and the Catholic Church sit to elect popes. Of course, the most famous is the Last Judgment. It's been cleaned and provided for and cared for, of course, since it was done. But you can't go there and not see the Pietà or even David. I mean, his sculpture of David is just like you look at it, you can't believe a human being created it. But anyway, I guess enough said. If you get a chance, and your first trip is to Europe, go to Italy. There's over 1,200. Give you an idea. There's over 1,200 churches in Rome alone. So it's an amazing place, and the major cities are just so well covered with art because of the Renaissance and the wealth that occurred at that time because of commerce and trading and shipping. So there you go.
All right. Well, let's see. In 1604, as long as we're talking about people with talent, William Shakespeare or Bacon, take your pick, I guess.
That's right. There's always been that argument.
Right, yeah. William Shakespeare's tragedy Othello was first performed at Whitehall Palace in London in 1604 on this date.
Yeah, and the phenomenal thing about of this was Elizabeth I, of the early 16th century, promoted theater in London for the masses, and in fact went to them quite often herself. Shakespeare comes along in April of 1564, near the end of the 16th century, while Elizabeth's around, and he starts writing incredible ideas in a way that presents theater, both comedy and drama, but it's his themes that become so amazing because most people of literature will tell you today that there isn't any human experience that he hasn't written about. So everything since Shakespeare, no one's come up with a new theme that he didn't already write about. So
he's done suicides, he's done infidelity, he's done it all.
That's right. Everything's a variation of what William Shakespeare wrote.
Vaping's the only thing he hasn't come up with, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And poetry as well.
Yeah.
The 39 plays, 154 sonnets, and narrative poems. So a body of work undone since, and I don't think he was somebody else, with what is it? It's not, you use somebody else's name, or you do use
plagiarism, you mean?
No, you use a name, not your regular name. I can never remember.
I don't know. You'll think of it over the break.
Yeah, of course. We're way over, folks. 2 minutes, my fault.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got to take care of our farmers, ranchers, and cab drivers, truck drivers, everybody that brings you food, booze, or clothing. We need to make sure those people are taken care of. And hey, if you're sitting down to breakfast, thank a farmer and a rancher for your bacon and eggs and toast and coffee and all that stuff. So hey, we'll be right back. Here's News and Ag. 26 minutes after the hour. It's Friday, November 1st, 2019, 27 degrees outside. Welcome back to the KMMS Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. And we're talking about this day in history, 1765, Shane, something that you and I learned about in school, but I seriously doubt they teach it any longer. And that would be the Stamp Act went into effect, prompting stiff resistance from American colonists. Remember the Stamp Act?
That's correct. And I'm going to take a moment to do this because it's so important to American history. And I hope most of our listeners know this. The grievances that the colonists had in 1775 were predicated on the Magna Carta, which was, the great commonly called Charter of Rights that King John of England on the 15th of June, 1215, 500 years before, basically over 550 years before, they had agreed to. And then, of course, the Bill of Rights of 1689 of England. I mean, they had a Bill of Rights in England, 1689. And the constitutional law of England sets out certain basic civil rights for its people. So, the Stamp Act grievance was one of 27 grievances. So I'll only take a few minutes and mention some of them because they're so important. He has refused the assent to laws the most necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his government to pass laws for immediate and pressing importance using suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when no suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusually uncomfortable and distant from a depository of their public records for the sole purpose of targeting them into compliance with his messages. So there's 4 of the 27 grievances. You should look them up. They're quite fascinating and incredibly relevant to what's going on in your capital today with this impeachment process. Very, very, very sad.
All right. All right, that does it for this segment. We'll be back. We've got Montana State News coming up, Fox News, and Brooke Foster with the weather, some words from Sweet Dental, and some more. And we'll return with more of This Day in History. And Henry Kriegel is going to join us at 7:30. He's got an event coming up. Also, the county commissioners will be here at 8 o'clock. So we'll talk about the upcoming election right after this. 25 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Friday, November 1st, 2019. 27 degrees outside and a little snow on the way and some other things. But most of all, it's going to be pretty nice. The game tomorrow against Southern Utah at the Bobcat Stadium should be nice and comfortable there. Mid-40s are predicted. No snow, no rain, no nothing. So hopefully the Cats can come away victorious tomorrow and take care of that. So
hopefully you'll be able to see the game through your breathing.
Yeah, right. Yes, you will. Yeah, it won't be like the whole stadium is vaping.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we talked briefly about the Stamp Act, and we got kind of waylaid by the break at the bottom of the hour. But, the Stamp Act was kind of the last straw, wasn't it, of the colonists that they just about had it with all these taxes and everything.
It was just, obviously the expansion of the population in the colonies was so significant, and the resources being generated that England wanted their fair share.
Yeah.
So they were basically tariffs, and
they just put a stamp on everything, didn't they? Every thing that was shipped or made or whatever had a stamp on it. Yeah, had a stamp on it. Yeah. All right, sorry, I thought maybe there might be more, but that's okay.
No. That's good.
1861, General George B. McClellan was made General-in-Chief of the Union Army. McClellan, yeah.
Yeah, Lincoln had a problem with generals back then. This was a guy that came from West Point. And as you all remember, the Civil War was 1861 to 1865. Basically, Sumter was fired on 2 weeks before Lincoln was even took his oath of office. So in his transition to become president, he was dealing with the beginning of a civil war because of the Democrats of the South and slavery. It's amazing because there were 4 major generals during this conflict of 4 years. Winfield Scott was McClellan's predecessor, and then Henry Halleck was succeeded him, and then the great Ulysses S. Grant took over, and the Battle of the Forest, basically, and the appointment of Sherman ended the war. But, he ran into problems with Lee. He lost the Battle of Antietam, which he failed to pursue Lee and the Army of Virginia, and Lincoln thought he could have ended the war because of that. But the thing is that people have to appreciate that there's 2 things that Lincoln had: railroad system and telegraph. He was the first president that knew exactly what was going on in the theater. And in the basement of the White House, he had his own telegraph, and he kept a constant watch, personal watch, like going down to the what do they call it now? Where they go down to the room and watch something militarily. But
the
he'd
war
go down.
room.
So yeah, he'd go down to his war room, and for hours and hours upon hours. Yeah, it's an amazing chapter of your history. Very sad the number of people that died on both sides, Americans that fell killing each other.
Yeah,
very sad.
That was sad. Yes, it was. 1936, in a speech in Milan, Italy, Benito Mussolini described the alliance between his country and Nazi Germany as an axis running between Rome and Berlin. So if you're wondering where the Axis powers came from Benito.
Yeah,
not to be confused with Beto.
That's right. There were three fascist governments at the time: Mussolini, Hitler, and of course that fellow in Spain. He's the only one that succeeded, and until his death, Spain remained a fascist government, which is quite remarkable. A lot of people don't realize it was actually Mussolini that conceived fascism. Of course, Hitler did write about it and claimed it was him, but he claimed everything. But we already know what happened with these gentlemen, what they did to the world. It's one of those situations that has to be taught, because over 100 million people died in that war and around the world, and it was one of those issues in the 20th century. 200 million people were destroyed or killed or murdered or slaughtered, genocide by socialism and fascism and communism.
Yeah. All right, we got to take another quick break, but hey, we'll return in 90 seconds. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. 18 minutes before the top of the hour. It's Friday, November 1st, 2019, 26 degrees outside, and 1946, Carl, whoever.
Joseph Wojtyła.
Wojtyła, yeah. The future Pope John Paul II was ordained as a priest in Poland, so got his start early, and away he went, right up to the top.
In all aspects of man, science, art, literature, politics, we always talk about how a single person can change the world, and this man certainly did. It was an amazing situation because Pope Paul VI died after only 33 days, and the cardinals, most of them hadn't even left Rome, for that conclave, and then they had to convene again. He didn't want the job. He was the first non-Italian pope in 600 years. But they had 129, or they had cardinals from 129 countries. So it was an amazing vote. He called for a universal call to holiness. He beatified 1,340 people and canonized 483, more than any other pope in the history of the church. But what he did to Poland and to support his Polish brothers and sisters changed the world forever and led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. And it's a remarkable thing. Actually, I actually had a chance to see him twice. Once in Vancouver, he visited here, and chased him as he drove down. I guess it was Thurlow, and it was quite an experience to see the charisma that the man had, and the ability for him to bring people together in such a positive way. It's just remarkable. He's like India, Mahatma Gandhi. He's like Martin Luther King, men of peace, and the belief in people can love and forgive. And he changed the world.
Wow. Well, in 1950, two Puerto Rican nationalists tried to change the world. They tried to force their way into Blair House in Washington to assassinate President Harry S. Truman. One of the assailants was killed.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. The Puerto Rico nationalists, as they called themselves, they also got into the Capitol and the House of Representatives, and almost caused a serious experience there because they wanted to actually blow it up. But it's what this is the only time in your country that Canada has something that they can sort of associate with the issue we had with Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
But your government, of course, put it down, and rightfully so, because they were terrorists.
Yeah. 1954, Algeria began a successful rebellion against French rule.
Well, that's right. It was a colony. It's across the ocean on the north part of Africa, and a very wealthy country in the context of oil. And the French fought very hard to try and keep it, but the people fought back. It's an Islamic country, with 42 million people, so almost as big as France itself.
Yeah,
$684 billion GDP and 15,700 GDP are and average income for the people today. So it's one of the few countries in the last 20 years that hadn't suffered a change of regime or a collapse of the country, which is a good thing because the countries along the Mediterranean in northern Africa were quite beautiful. People live within 75 miles of the ocean because the rest of it's all desert.
Yeah. 1979, former First Lady Mamie Eisenhower died in Washington, D.C. at the age of 82.
Remarkable woman, having followed her husband around the world. And, she's one of these first ladies that was like, just quiet. Like she looked Virginian, you know what I mean? Like the little hairstyle and the way she dressed. And, she was just always there for her husband. And, they always say that behind a great man, sits a very powerful woman, and Mamie was.
Well, I think so. They were married for a number of years, in spite of his infidelities during the war, and whatever. Right. But anyway, seems like that's what presidents do. Yeah.
Well, it's not like he wasn't a powerful guy.
No, I'm sure he was he was attracted by various people, but yeah, he was. She was a lot like Pat Nixon, just stayed out of the limelight, didn't do much. There wasn't TV was kind of in its infancy when they took office back in the time. Everything was black and white, and it was, as I often say, a more innocent time in America. We were at peace with pretty much everybody, and not much going on. Other than,
but she knew America. She was born in Iowa.
Yeah.
Grew up in Colorado Springs and Denver, and even in San Antonio, Texas, because of her family and her father's business. And so she had a very good understanding of Midwest America.
Yeah.
Sound familiar? Yeah.
Well, the Bork appointment to the Supreme Court was probably the end of the really popular justices, I guess, because along comes Clarence Thomas, 1991. Clarence Thomas took his place as a justice on the Supreme Court after blasting the committee for what he called a high technical lynching or something like that.
Yeah, high-tech lynching.
Yeah.
Well, it's everyone talks, and you've been borked, and they tried to do this thing to Clarence Thomas. Now you're being Kavanaugh'd. When they bring up a letter at the last day of a hearing to try and bounce you out, the Democrats, and basically what's going on is right now is the same thing with this thing in the Ukraine with your president. They're trying to Clarence Thomas him. This thing about this, huge call is pretty incredible that they're trying it a second time. I mean, wow. And now it turns out huge news. The whistleblower ends up having worked with Biden in the White House on, guess what, the Ukraine. He apparently graduated from Yale. He spoke Russian, Ukrainian, and Arabic. And lo and behold, guess who brought him to Biden? Brennan, the head of the CIA, who, let us not forget, folks, became a Muslim when he was detailed to Saudi Arabia. So not only is he a Muslim, but he's a Saudi Arabian Muslim of that inkling of Islam. Interesting.
Wow. Well, in 1995, Bosnia peace talks opened. Where? Dayton, Ohio. Why?
Yeah, I know.
That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, well, Ohio was an important state,
Yeah,
and
but shouldn't the peace
Mr.
talks for Bosnia take place in Bosnia?
Not if you're Clinton,
Well, I
and
guess that's right. I don't know. The Vietnam peace talks took place in Paris, so I guess
that's right.
I guess we gotta. I don't know. That just seems really dumb to me that it's done there. In Dayton, Ohio.
It
Were
was
the
definitely
Wright
political.
brothers there for
No,
it?
it's just political. It was Ohio was an important state.
Well, I guess I don't know. Well, there's not too many, not too many birthdays worth talking about, as I always say. If I haven't heard of you, you're not famous. But let's take a phone call while we're here. And 522 talk is the number. 522-8255. Caller, you are on the morning soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Okay, guys. I think you should start a new trend.
Okay.
Everyone calls this person a whistleblower.
Right.
When you hear the term whistleblower, that just implies that they've seen someone do something wrong, illegal, unethical, whatever.
Immoral or fattening.
Well,
yeah.
Yes. Why don't you guys and all of other conservative news outlets call this guy a leaker? He leaked stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
and
He was actually in the White House, as I said, and on the NSA, and he was the one they found in 2017 to be leaking. He was a leaker, so he committed treason.
So because when you call someone a whistleblower, that person's put up more on a pedestal because they're coming forward to
right or wrong.
To let people, to right or wrong, to let people know that someone or some corporation or whatever did something wrong, illegal, unethical, but a leaker, they're
Well, the amazing thing about this guy, the amazing thing about this guy is, as we reported here, he worked with Biden, and of course Biden was given the Ukraine portfolio, so he clearly knew what was going on with Biden and his son in the Ukraine, and didn't file a whistle complaint then.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah, exactly. It's very strange. And by the way, everyone in New York, the New York Times knows his name. They've all known his name for now 30 days, and they're all afraid to out him. I even know his name, but his first name is Eric, but I won't tell you his last name.
Yeah.
So again, my point: a whistleblower, put on a pedestal, looked up to; a leaker is looked down on. So
exactly.
Didn't he leak? He leaked something. He didn't whistleblow because a phone call being treasonous, a phone call being impeachable because of what the president said, and besides, Biden wasn't his political rival at the time, and if Biden did stuff that was unethical, trying to force Ukraine to fire their chief prosecutor just because that man was investigating the Burisma that his Biden's son worked for. I mean, come on, give me a break. He's a leaker. He's not a whistleblower, he's a leaker.
All right.
Bad.
We'll call him a leaker from now on.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks for the call. All right. We got to take another quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. 4 minutes for the top of the hour. It's Friday, October. Boy, it's November, right? November 1st.
It is today. Yeah.
November 1st. Jeez. Well, you say October for 31 days. They say if you do anything for, 28 days, it's a habit, something like that.
21 days.
21 days? Okay, all right. Well, Friday, it's Friday, finally Friday, November 1st, 2019, 24 degrees outside. And speaking of the impeachment thing, Shane, and how many texts have we got about the Mueller report that I have to read the Mueller report? And if I read the Mueller report, I'll see the impeachment clearly in my mind. Why is the Mueller report not at the basis of this impeachment deal? Why is it some phone call?
It's just, because the Democrats and the nature of the party and the way they operate, they're insistent on replacing your president because they know they'll lose in the ballot box, and that's why Representative Green of Texas filed an impeachment resolution within a month of him taking office.
Yeah, I know he's done it 2 or 3 times, I think,
That's
and
right.
it never got anywhere. But But I was just wondering about that. That it seems it just seems unusual that supposedly there's 10 obstruction of justice charges in the Mueller report, and none of those apparently rise to impeachable offenses. But yet this phone call, oh my God, he might have said something in a phone call. So.
Well, they're trying to raise money. They're way behind, on the 2020 election. And the contradiction here is that this whole argument about influencing an election, well, they are. And by doing this, and wrongly so, falsely accusing someone of something for 2 years, and they find out, and they never apologized. They never withdrew. They never said, oh, we're sorry we wasted this time, this money, and we're sorry, Mr. President, falsely accusing you. Mm-hmm. And so they're interfering with the election in using their position as a majority in the House of Representatives to do so. So it's really hard. And sadly enough, they voted on this yesterday on Halloween. I mean, that's going to go down in history.
Yeah, I know. That'll be the day, won't it?
Yeah, that's right. The 31st of October, Halloween, they voted, to impeach the president. Well, no, it wasn't exactly to impeach him.
Yeah,
but,
right. It's just it's to set up the rules where, you can't call witnesses, you can't subpoena anyone or anything like that. And then,
didn't anyone look at Nancy Pelosi and say, it's Halloween? Oh, they couldn't. The way she looks, she would have really been upset.
I know. Yeah, that would have been appropriation of culture.
That's right.
But, well, the other thing we got to think about, if this does go to trial in the Senate, we got, they're not going to work much during November and December.
That's right.
So this thing is going to drag into January when the primaries start, and about half of these people that are standing on the stage are senates, and they got to be there for these votes and for this trial. They aren't going to be able to go out and campaign.
No.
So,
and as we covered and reported under the news, the Senate sits from Monday to Saturday.
Right.
So if there's a trial, they under the rules of the Senate, they have to be seated at 1:00.
Yep.
On Monday to Saturday to hear the trial.
Right.
So if they miss one session, they can't
vote. Yeah. And it takes a 2/3 majority too. They'll need at least 67 senators to vote on it. So I don't know. I don't know. It's fun for us here on radio, but for the American people, it sure is a dumb thing to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got NAFTA or the USMCA to think about, and immigration and all kinds of other things. Infrastructure, the whole 9 yards. We'll be back after the news. Stay tuned. Thank you, Dan. Welcome back, everyone. It's 6 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. It's Friday, November 1st, 2019, 24 degrees outside. Shane Taubman, half man, half amazing, is on the line with me in Vancouver, and Tom Eagle up, your morning mayor in the house. This is the KMMS Morning Soapbox. Henry Kriegel will join us at 7:30, and the county commissioners at 8 o'clock. And the latest news out, Shane, is the jobs report. The U.S. added 128,000 non-farm payroll last month, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, compared with forecast for an increase of only 85,000. That was fewer than the 180,000 created in September, but enough to keep unemployment at a historically low 3.6%, and particularly with the General Motors strike that went on for 40 days or so, they were really... they were really expecting that number to be considerably less, and the teacher strike, too, may have an effect on this month's, that was in October as well. So
they ended it yesterday. That's right.
Yeah. So this is pretty good news and even with the trade war tensions that were going on, that brought the market down last quarter, whatever. And right now, the market is it's up 112 points on this news, the job report news. So I think people are a little more confident of what's going on around the country. And that's pretty good news that the jobless rate is hanging in there, and people are still hiring. Wage gains remain sluggish, but average hourly average hourly earnings rose 3% from a year earlier, far below the peak reached earlier in the year, but still it's an increase. And now is the time they're going to start hiring people for the Christmas season and Thanksgiving and all of that. So we're going to have some hiring, part-time hiring and full-time hiring done.
Well, and this report in September is so important because of the loss of farm jobs, because the farms go quiet now at the winter and the completion of harvesting. So it's always an important number. Dig a little deeper. What's phenomenal is the inner city growth of jobs. I mean, these free zones that the president's policy has created is just expanding exponentially within, these city zones that have been the ones hurt the most and need the jobs the most. So these are critical jobs. Now, of course, a lot of them are in areas of service like building, home building and stuff, which is still growing or holding up very well too. So, yeah, the expansion of it, and keep in mind what you and I said, all those hurricanes. They sort of created a lot of growth in your country, even without Congress, not getting some kind of infrastructure deal done. What your president did to protect, help all those states with those hurricanes, created a pretty strong infrastructure that's held up, the economy, as well.
Sure. Yeah, there's been a lot of, well, if you want to call a positive, I guess you could call the fires in California positive that are burning homes and businesses and all of that, because that's all going to have to be rebuilt as well. And a lot of folks are going to be doing that. But all things considered, even with the tariffs and even with the the uncertainty, the holdup of the USMCA, we've got a pretty good economy going here, I think, all things considered. Obviously, not everybody is feeling the positive effects of it. There's always a group that is going to be left out of any prosperity. But I think for the most part here, most people are feeling pretty good about the way things are going. Let's take a phone call. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Calling you on the Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Hey, so are you guys talking national numbers or are you talking local numbers?
We're talking national right now. Our local numbers are about 2.2%, I think, in Montana. It's below 3, I know.
Well, I was in the job services office yesterday, and they said Bozeman is 1.9%.
Really? Wow. All right.
And they had 1,500 open positions.
Yeah.
Last month, with that 1.9%, they're saying that was just 1,000 people.
Wow. Holy smokes! Yeah. So everybody's working. They may not be working where they want to work, but they're working.
Well, at least they should be, or could be.
Yeah. Well,
They should be.
Well, I think across the country with a 3.6 job, you've got to figure that a lot of that 3% is people that are just voluntarily between jobs. Maybe they quit, or wanted to do something else, or start their own business, or who knows what. But yeah, there are more jobs available than there are people to fill them right now.
So I was wondering about, isn't there a job participation statistics, like how much of the population is participating in the workforce?
There is, yeah. Let me see. Yeah, there is. I've got that info someplace. Let me find it if I can.
Well, 95.5 million people are in the workforce, and workforce pop. Yeah, it's 95.5 million people.
Yeah, but that's not the percentage. It's about 63 or 64%, I believe.
Of the entire population?
Right, yeah.
Or the available workforce?
Well, that's the people that are, I guess, eligible to work. Let me see if I can find that for you real quick. I thought I had a quick thing to it, but I don't think I do. Let's see if I can find that real quick for you.
Right. So I remember that during Obama, the participation in the workforce had declined significantly.
It had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me look at that.
Well, there are 158 million people in your workforce right now, almost 160 million.
Yeah. The labor participation rate stood at 63.2% as of September 2019, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which publishes updates monthly. The monthly figures have been in a narrow range from a bit under 63 to a bit over 66 for the past 10 years. So that's kind of where we are, yeah.
So there's still 40% roughly of the
workforce is not. They're not counted as far as. Some of them may be self-employed, or they may work at home, or any number of things. So
they don't count the self-employed.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure who they count in this, quite honestly. I should probably know that. Let's see. The labor force participant rate is a measure of an economy active workforce. The formula for the number is the sum of all workers who are employed or actively seeking employment divided by the total working age population. So there may be some people who are working age, but they may be in college. They may be, between jobs or whatever. So there's always a certain percentage. It might be work-at-home moms or stay-at-home moms, so there's a lot of there's a lot of difference there.
Okay.
And people that work independent don't pay weekly or biweekly income taxes. So people that work for someone, that's 123,300,000 that the U.S. collects directly, every paycheck.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very interesting.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question. Right. That's something I'm glad I looked it up, and now I know. I was pretty sure that's what it was, but anyway. So you're making my brain work today. Thanks for that.
Sorry, Friday work.
I know it's Friday. I'm supposed to take it easy today.
Well, enjoy the weekend then.
All right, I will do that. Hey, thanks for the call. Thanks for listening. Take care. All right. Yeah, that was an interesting call there. So yeah, the formula is the number of the sum of all workers who are employed or actively seeking employment divided by the total working age population. And let's see, the working age population, how do they figure the age is?
18.
Yeah, well, let's see. Well, it doesn't really say in here what it is, but well, I know you can hire people under the age of 18 for certain jobs and certain things.
Well, yeah,
whatever.
Farm children can start working at 16.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't give me a number here. It looks like so. I guess it's up to you. If you want your 5-year-old to start pouring concrete, go for it.
Hey, my girl started working at 16, Tom. That's the right age.
Well, a lot of us had paper routes when we were kids, So it's all relative, I guess. So. All right, we've got to take another quick break here, so we'll be back in 90 seconds. 19 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m., Friday, November 1st, 2019, 23 degrees outside. Henry Kriegel will join us at 7:30. He's got an event coming up at the library. Oops, excuse me. Next week, so we'll be chatting with him, and at 8 o'clock, the county commissioners will join us, and we'll be chatting with them about probably the Law and Justice Center, more than likely. It's on the ballot on Tuesday. Boy, I'm going to be glad to stop talking about the Law and Justice Center. It's either going to go up or go down. So I'm ready. I've had enough of it. All right, local stuff. Shane, we got a lot going on. We've got the one of the things. Jeez, I'm so stupid. You keep hitting the close the tab when I should be hitting the tab itself. So, but I don't know. Anyway, because I lost my Bozeman Chronicle here, so let me put that back up here if I can. We're talking about the upcoming election and the number of things that have or the amount of I'll get it in a minute, Shane. The amount of campaign stuff. Jeez. This is not my day. It's Friday, but I don't know. My brain's on next week, I guess, or something. I don't know. But anyway, we're looking at the campaign fundraising of these candidates here. Waller has the most money. He has. He's loaned his campaign $26,240 and donated about $800 to it. He has brought in about $14,000 in donations and a few $100 in in-kind services, including fundraising and whatever. And that is Michael Waller, who is the head economic researcher at TechLink here in town. And he spent most of the money on local ads, on TV ads on CNN and Fox News that are running currently. And the other folks, Mark Egg, a data scientist at High Street Consulting Group, loaned his campaign $1,000 when it began and later donated $115 worth of office supplies. And so he's been spending that. And the other, Zachary Crum, has the lowest amount of money. He's the director of Tenants United, has raised the least money, and he's loaned his campaign $3,000 and received about $1,150 in donation, and his largest expense was the $1,050 he spent on Facebook video ads. So we'll see. Well, I guess we'll know Tuesday who does what. So
yeah, exactly.
Those are the folks that are going to take Jeff Krause's place as his seat retires.
Yes, indeed.
So, and we'll also pick another mayor and whatever else.
Yeah, who doesn't take office for 2 years?
Yeah, that's the way we do it here. You're the assistant mayor for 2 years, and then we keep running you along. Well, it takes you a while to figure out how to set the agenda and what goes on there. So I think it's kind of a good idea to have some on-the-job training that when you're going to be mayor, you can watch a mayor and decide I want to do it that way or I want to do it my way or another way. So
yeah.
I don't know. So, well, in a recent survey done by the Montana Outdoor Heritage Project, the survey says that Montanans want more conservation spending, not conservative spending. We want conservation spending. We want to buy more land. Montanans care a lot about public land access and conserving wildlife, and they like the idea of the state spending more money on those things. So the survey, based on responses from more than 11,000 people, found that 83% of respondents think Montana should set aside more money to protect wildlife, agricultural lands, and outdoor recreation opportunities, even if it means taxes increase. Wow.
Yeah, so three types of land ownership in your country: federal, state, and private. People are homeless. They're you don't have any care really for people that are homeless in cities like Billings, Missoula, or Bozeman. But let's go buy some more land, in the wilderness, for animals like this. This makes such a lot of sense. 60% of your state's owned by the federal government. A large part of what's left is state property, and of course, fee simple land is a small percentage of your state. Mm-hmm. It's a sad waste of money, and tax money in particular, when there's so many other things that need to be taken care of. It's we have this problem here. 4 people are dying a day in Vancouver because of drug overdose.
Right.
And it's euthanasia. That's what it is. It's government euthanasia. They don't want to take care of anyone. So, let these poor people die. We live in the 21st century in such a remarkable apparent wealth, particularly in our countries. And we don't care to take care of people in need. Did you see what happened yesterday in Detroit with a young girl out trick-or-treating and gets shot and killed? I mean,
yeah,
wow.
I know. Yeah, that's
very sad.
It really is. That. Well,
how can you measure the importance of animals that have like 80% of the property in your state already? Like,
I was gonna say, if you put San Diego where Bozeman is, it would reach. It would only reach to Three Forks and the entrance to the canyon where you start going into the mountains at Big Sky. On the way to Big Sky. I mean, that's all it would take up. Just this. Most of this valley, it'll be 8 million people here, 7 million, something like that. I forget what San Diego is. It's about 300 square miles. So, So, and you'd still be able to hunt. you can head over to Livingston and hunt in the crazies and wherever.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Law and Justice Center. Is there not one person out there that listens to this show and can't call in and tell us why they support it? Where is everybody that's in support of law and justice?
I don't know.
I mean, it amazes me. We have lots of people that call up and say, they're against it.
Yeah, we don't want it. Yeah.
That's fine. But we've yet really to have, except Jeff, I can see the reason behind it. I listen to it all, and
sure,
I don't have a dog in a fight, so I never really talk about it or say anything. But I'm amazed that very few people. Well, do you remember anyone calling up and saying, "These are the reasons I support the Law and Justice Center"? In all the 3 months or 4 months or 6 months we talked about it.
Yeah. Well, other than the county commissioners, no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's and they have to be talking to someone. I mean, there's got to be someone in favor of this. They wouldn't be having a vote on it if they didn't think they could win it.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot like the jail. We went through 3 votes to get the jail, and each time it cost more money, and there is an argument, and I think it's a legitimate argument that, there might be some way to salvage the existing building and add on to it. But I don't know in the long run, the city and the county couldn't get together on having a law and justice center where everybody was in it. So now we've got the public safety building, and that's construction on that is going to start before long. If it hasn't already, I think they're clearing the land for it, but, yeah, but I mean, it's ready to start rocking and rolling there. But the point is, if you do expand the existing building, and that doesn't last very long, then you're 2 years building something else. So I don't know. There's you can look at both sides of the equation, isn't it? Would it be better to build a building that will be adequate for 50 years? We could add 2 or 3 more courtrooms to it, or the existing building where a lot of renovation would be involved, and you got to add on to it. And is it going to look like a bunch of buildings all stuck together, or something? I don't know.
Well, and hypothetical. Here's a hypothetical. You and I talked about the Kmart property. They don't want to sell it. They want to lease it.
Yeah.
And we hear from all these people that they don't want to own property because we're not,
we're not landlords.
County. We're not. Okay, well, lease the property, and it's a beautiful site to put up some beautiful low housing and housing for homeless people. I mean, you could create a great campus. It's big enough to create a campus.
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized place there.
With a social center and everything.
You'd have plenty of parking. All right.
Where are the ideas?
I don't know. We'll be back right after the news. Henry Kriegel's going to join us at 7:30. He's got an event coming up, so we'll be talking to Henry. Then the county commissioners will be in at 8 o'clock, so we'll be chatting with them. So stay tuned. 25 minutes for the top of the hour. Henry Kriegel joins us in studio. No stranger to the KMMS microphones. Had your show for many years on Saturday. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, glad to have you in the studio today. And you got an event coming up at the library coming up here next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Tell us what is going on there, Henry.
We do have an event. It's an important one. It's it's called Rethinking War and Diplomacy. When should America go to war? Very timely issue considering we've been in Afghanistan for 18 years and we're spread throughout the globe and at a cost of $1 trillion. And what have we gotten for it? Some of the questions that will be answered by my friend and colleague who's on the line with us. That's John Burns. He's the foundation director for Concerned Veterans for America Foundation. This is happening at 6 p.m. this coming Wednesday at the Bozeman Public Library. We will offer some food, and there'll be time for questions and answers. This issue is front and center with the recent withdrawal of U.S. troops from Syria and the excellent work by our special ops in taking down Baghdadi, the former head of ISIS. So this is a big concern. Montana, as you know, has the third per capita population of veterans in the U.S. Gallatin County, where we sit, has the number one per capita veteran population in the state of Montana. Veterans are affected by it. Those who are serving are affected by it. Their families are. We send our best men and women over there to fight, and God knows what are they fighting for now. So I'm going to leave some of the heavy lifting for my friend John Burns to deal with some of the policy issues that will be covered during this upcoming program.
All right, John Burns joins us on our Newsmaker line. John, how are you? Thanks for being here.
Doing well. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Bozeman. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. What can you tell us about this topic?
Well, to Henry's point, I don't know if I'm going to be providing answers or just getting people to ask really hard questions. And, that's one of the missions for Concerned Veterans for America Foundation this year, particularly in this discussion as we try to elevate the conversation about foreign policy, war, and diplomacy. We want the American people to really start thinking about once again. It seems to me, and it seems to the folks in my organization, that the American people, for the last 18 years since September 11th, have just kind of let the foreign policy and the political establishment do what they will with our military without much in the way of input from the general public. They've just kind of accepted the advice of experts all along. And we've gotten into a situation where we've been at war for 18 years. The initial effects of the Afghan war and the Iraq war were very swift, right? We achieved, tactical victories in both of those places very, very rapidly. But in both countries, we got bogged down for quite some time, particularly Afghanistan, where we've been, again, since October 2001. Now 18 years and adding months. And, to what end, right? Has it really been necessary to keep tens of thousands, at some points over 100,000 soldiers in those countries in order to achieve effects that maybe, as I've said before to other people, maybe we could have just walked away from those countries at some point. And if we had to go back in and fight. We've lost, 10,000 soldiers in those two countries over those 18 years. And if we had just let those countries kind of sort themselves out again, and if we needed to go back, given the fact that the casualties in the initial invasions were under 1,000 for both places, we could have done better by the American mothers and the American fathers and brothers and sisters and husbands and wives of service members, and we could do better by the American taxpayer. So I think it's on, what we want to do, it's on the citizens of this country to kind of join the conversation, and we want to give them the tools to join that conversation. We want them to start thinking about foreign policy again in a way that maybe they haven't for a decade plus.
Yeah. One of the questions I think that everybody is asking, whenever we withdraw from someplace, and particularly in the case of Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq and all these places, is the possible resurgence of ISIS, because they just named a new guy the other day with about 10 names. I'm not going to try to pronounce all of them, but anyway, they've apparently got somebody that wants to keep this thing going. And obviously, Baghdadi's going to be a martyr, and is that going to be a recruiting tool? And I don't think any of us want to be in these foreign wars forever, but we do have American interests overseas that need to be protected. So, is there a happy place we can be here? Because I think they're going to keep some people there to protect the Syrian oil fields, are they not?
They are, and in fact, I'm calling you from Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm a native New Yorker, but I've lived in North Carolina for the last 10 years. I actually, some of the guys moving into those oil fields today and yesterday are friends of mine who are members of the North Carolina Army National Guard's 30th Brigade, and that's something to think about, right? We're not sending in the 82nd Airborne. We're not sending in the U.S. Marine Corps. We're sending in National Guard troops to secure those oil fields right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm retired now, but I joined the National Guard after doing a stint in the Marine Corps. I joined the National Guard, 19 years ago. I'm really proud that I served in the National Guard in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and at the time it made that we're in a position where with what we have going on in the Middle East, with the president trying to end forever wars, with lots and lots of folks, including my friends at Concerned Veterans for America, my sister organization, calling for withdrawal from Afghanistan. I don't know if sending in National Guard troops, like guys who are weekend warriors, is the right thing to be doing. And certainly, it's probably not the expectation that a lot of them had when they joined the military, that they would be sent in before, troops from active duty units to go overseas.
Yeah. We got to take a quick break, John. Put you back on hold here. We'll be back with Henry Kriegel, and the event is going to be Wednesday, November 6th at 6 p.m. at the Public Library. It's Rethinking War and Diplomacy. When should America go to war? And we've got some folks calling in, Shane, so if you could chat with them for just a moment. We'll be back with Henry and John Burns and Tom and Shane right after this. Welcome back. You don't start talking until I talk, Shane. I'm sorry. No, I had you up,
Well, no, we had a caller that was in favor of the Law and Justice Center and asked him to call back at the top of the hour. So
okay. All right, good. All right, we'll talk about that at the 8 o'clock hour with the county commissioners. Right now, joining us, Henry Kriegel is in the studio, and we've got John Burns, who is I got it here somewhere, the director of Concerned Veterans for American Foundation. I almost said Vietnam vets because I'm one. So
you're wearing your cap today.
Service, sir.
Well, you're very welcome. I appreciate that very much.
Welcome home.
Yeah, amen to that. All right. Well, we were talking about this damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, Henry, where we're kind of staying. It's the song, "Do I Stay or Do I Go?"
Well, it's a familiar refrain for me because, as you know, I used to work with the Afghans during the Soviet War. I was the head of the Committee for Free Afghanistan, and that was the subject of my conversation with President Reagan in the White House when they were talking the endgame strategy, and the president wanted to completely withdraw our involvement in that region, signing a UN accords with the Soviet Union. And my concern was what was going to happen with total disengagement from the region, and which is what we did. And today we have a different situation. I agree with John on this. We've been in there for 18 years, a cost of $1 trillion. We can't make the Afghans to resemble us.
No.
We have to have a realistic outlook about these folks. They're tribal in nature. They had an opportunity to develop their own government, their own system of leadership and governance when we were involved in that war with the Soviets, and they didn't seize it because that's not their culture. So withdrawal makes a lot of sense. At this point, the question is, how does that look like? And do we have some human intel on the ground so we know what's going on with the Taliban or a resurgence of an Al-Qaeda or ISIS type of situation? And can we effectively respond? And I think we can do all of that. Obviously, it takes further discussion and further planning. These are some of the issues that are going to be raised by John during his presentation here in Bozeman on November 6th. And the following night, we're in Billings at Rocky Mountain College, hosted by the president with a panel discussion that's also led by John Burns. So two great events that are coming up that people can hear some in-depth conversation about. It's about time the American public got involved in this issue because, as John said, in the aftermath of 9/11, when they hit my beloved hometown of New York City and the Pentagon, where I lived just a few miles away, the national conscience was all in favor of getting back at the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and the first 2 months of engagement in Afghanistan did the most damage. 18 years later, we shifted to nation building without the involvement of the American public and without any kind of accountability to Congress, who never had to vote on going to war. We've been at war, and it's unconstitutional. So let's talk about these issues. Bring your questions to the table. come on out and check us out November 6th at the Bozeman Public Library. We'll even feed you to make sure you get dinner before we have the presentation.
There you go. All right. Free food. You can't beat it, folks. John, can you give us maybe a brief synopsis of what topics you're going to cover on November 6th at the library at 6 p.m.?
So I'm going to walk people through these questions that we're talking about today. I'm going to tell my story, and I'm just going to foreshadow it a little bit here. As Henry said, beloved hometown New York. I was actually in New York on September 11th. I was in the National Guard, so I responded. And I'm going to walk people through kind of the journey that made me go from being, pretty much an interventionalist on September 12th, right? Like let's go kill them all and take over all their countries, to where I am today, where I think, we need to rethink our foreign policy, right? We need to start talking about realism. We need to start talking about restraint. And we need to start thinking about, do we really want to send, do we need to be sending weekend warriors to secure Syrian oil fields? Do we need to be keeping, 30, 40,000 troops in places like Afghanistan to prop up a government, that's ineffective? You mentioned Vietnam experience. I'm sure you worked with the ARVNs, right? The Vietnamese troops, the local troops, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many years did we spend, trying to prop them up? You go back to the late 50s, right? Over 15 years trying to prop up the ARVNs to defend their own country, something that they were ultimately incapable of doing. I spent a lot of time working with the Afghan National Army and the Afghan National Police, and if after 18 years they can't defend their own country, maybe it's just time to let the Afghans sort out what happens there. And and if some government there chooses to challenge America here at home or in some other place where we have real interest, then we'll respond appropriately. But I don't know that it's in our interest to spend another year, or certainly not another 18 years, trying to figure out who should be in charge in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we keep seeing is that all across the country, when we went into Afghanistan after 9/11, we had something like 106 countries helping us out. And what we're seeing with the endless wars in the Middle East is none of the people of England are keeping troops out. The people in France are keeping people out, Germany, etc. And we seem to be the only country that does the heavy load in spite of public opposition.
Yeah. You raise a great point. The burden sharing on our allies, and are our resources being pointed at the right place? You think about the NATO requirement of spending 4% of GDP. America is the only country in NATO that typically meets that. And yet, in places, let's get away from Afghanistan for a second. Places like Libya, our allies encourage us to go into a country where there's really nothing of our interest worth fighting for, to change a government that had already changed its ways and become much more amenable to what we wanted, but they just still didn't like that government. They pushed us into that war. They pulled out early and left us holding the pieces. They're pulling back in other places. We don't have the support of the American people. We don't have the support of our allies. People talk historically about American leadership and foreign policy. Sometimes leadership means figuring out what the right thing to do is before other people do and doing the right thing.
All right. We got to take another quick break, John, so hang on. We'll be right back after these important words. Stay tuned. 6 minutes for the top of the hour, guys. The time is winding down here for us. Any thoughts, Henry, we need to finish up with here before we have to go?
I would just want to share this one thing. So I've been talking about these events all over the community here in Bozeman and Billings, and I go before veteran service providers and their leaders. And they have a lot of support for our position in this discussion, because why? They deal with veterans when they return from war, who are either physically injured or bear some deep psychological, emotional scars from having served overseas. And I think we've lost a sense of mission and purpose. And I think John can speak to this a lot better than I can, because he is a veteran. But I would imagine going over there, putting your life on the line, seeing the carnage, and coming back with a feeling like, why the heck did I do that? What was that all about? And having to suffer your injury here and now go out and ask for help. Man, that's got to be super humbling. So the folks that I talk with, there's a lot of support for this discussion. And that's what we're having, a discussion about withdrawal, how to withdraw. What does that look like? When should we get involved? This is something that we have to do as a nation. We can't. We've relied on our leadership. John referred to them as the political establishment, and this is what we've got, and it doesn't work. And that's why we're having these events. And I'm grateful that John's coming out to present at these two events. And I'm going to leave the final word for John on that.
All right, John, go take it away.
Yeah, I think Henry did a really good job of kind of summing up the position for Concerned Veterans for America Foundation and our partner, Concerned Veterans for America. We see this as not an isolated policy, right? Our foreign policy. It's part of a core set of issues that we're really concerned about. Our defense, our national defense, and our foreign policy, our spending habits, and particularly our veterans' health care, right? I mean, Concerned Veterans for America and my foundation have been front and center in educating Americans and fighting for policies that help our veterans. At the end of the day, it's good for the American taxpayer. It's good for the American veterans if fewer of them have health issues related to service. And, again, referring to your service as a Vietnam veteran, you look, the high water mark of veterans in America was 87, 88 when Ronald Reagan expanded the Department of Veteran Affairs up to a cabinet level agency. We had the highest number of veterans because World War II veterans are still alive. Vietnam veterans were just getting to the point where many of them were seeking health care. We're still suffering. We have folks who are still suffering from Agent Orange, who are just identifying themselves as having suffered from Agent Orange injuries, 50, 60 years after the fact. We have a generation of veterans today who have issues like burn pits and depleted uranium problems and other unidentified health issues that are going to come out of this war. And it's going to drive up the cost of veterans' health care over the next couple of decades once again. So these issues all fit together. What we do with our dollars, how we spend our money in this country, a lot of which has gone overseas for the last 18 years. And now we're going to start to have to pay more and more to treat veterans for both, as Henry mentioned, physical and for mental, emotional issues that result from these wars. So we see this as all fitting together. And we think that the conversation starts with veterans about where they think the best place to take Americans' foreign policy is in the future. But we really want the American people as a whole to jump into this conversation, to start asking hard questions, first of themselves and then of the political leadership that faces them, about where we fight our wars, why we choose to fight them, and how it affects the veterans amongst us.
All right, John. Thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate having your expertise on the line. And again, it's Rethinking War and Diplomacy. When should America go to war? It's going to be Wednesday, November 6th at 6 p.m. at the community room of the Bozeman Public Library. Dinner will be provided, and John Burns, the director of the Concerned Veterans for American Foundation, is going to be there as the keynote speaker. And then Henry Kriegel, of course, will direct some question and answer afterwards. And let's have a discussion about this. There's pros and cons both ways, but let's turn out for this, because we do have a lot of veterans here in the community. If you're a veteran out there, you may want to add your 2 cents to this discussion. And I think it's a worthwhile project. We thank you for putting it on, Henry.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for having us here this morning.
Oh yeah, well, we're glad to do that. Shane, any thoughts? You've been kind of quiet over there.
Oh, no, it's just fantastic that these people are bringing veterans together that get a chance to meet each other and share their stories as well. So it's well done, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Well, we're pleased to put this on for you, or give you the time at least to let folks know about this. And once again, it's Rethinking War and Diplomacy. When should America go to war? It's Wednesday at 6 o'clock Wednesday, November 6th at 6 o'clock. John Burns, director of the Concerned Veterans for American Foundation, for America Foundation, I should say, will be the keynote speaker. And so show up at the public library, community room, 6 p.m. on November 6th, Wednesday night.
That would be great. We look forward to hosting you there. If you want to sign up ahead of time, it's bit.ly/realism and restraint. Yeah. Hope to see you there.
All right. All right.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks, John, for being here. Thanks to Henry for being here. And we got to duck out of here, pay some bills, and all of that. So we'll be back shortly. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everyone. It is 6 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. It's Friday, November 1st, 2019. I don't know what year it is.
They all roll together after a while, don't they?
Shane Matavin on the line with me. And Shane, we got a caller. Is that the caller about the Law and Justice Center?
Yes, it is.
All right, caller, you are on the air with the county commissioners. What's going on?
Well, good morning. This is Mark, and I'm calling in as a proponent for the Law and Justice Center, and I have several reasons. I guess I've gone through the dog and pony show put on by the commissioners, et cetera, and picked up some different tidbits. First, I'd just like to address the age and condition of the current building. It is not designed for what it's being used for. It's really inadequate. And I hear a lot of people say, well, why don't they just remodel it? And I guess the response to that is the commissioners looked at that, and it would probably cost over $40 million by the time you bring that up to code and put in the security measures that you need, et cetera. And until we get a adequate facility, the area will not get any more judges, and we're needing at least 2 more. We cannot put up temporary facilities like we've done in the past. That's just not going to cut the mustard to get us the additional judges that we need. And if you've ever gone to court in this county, you have a good idea of how long justice can spin out. It's not very speedy at all. But the other thing with bringing the building up to code, remodeling, is the fact of where are you going to move the facilities while the building is being remodeled? Because if you have an office in there, they can't remodel it while you're sitting there. And so what's the cost to move everybody to another facility, bring that facility up to speed to where it needs to be for security, et cetera? So there's just, to me, no sense in spending that kind of money, time, and effort on an old facility instead of doing the new one. The other thing is that currently the criminals that are going to court move through the public corridors, the same corridors that the victims and the witnesses move through, and that's not a very secure situation, and you would not be very comfortable as a witness if you're getting eyeballed by the same person you're going to give testimony against. So to me, there just is a need to go ahead, get this done, get it done before the costs go up even more, and get on with the program. If we can spend $15 million for a trails bond, I think we can spend this money to get the Law and Justice Center up to date and make sure we still continue to have a very safe environment in the Bozeman area. So those are my thoughts.
All right. Ray, thanks for your call.
I think I'll just leave now because I couldn't have said that better.
Yeah. Why aren't you running for county commissioner?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Well, run for the city if you're in the city.
Thanks.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Thanks for listening.
Have a good
Thanks
day.
for your input. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of good points there. One of the things we hadn't talked about was, if you're going to remodel that building, you got to put these people somewhere. So that's the other issue. And
not only the cost, but the feasibility of that. Where are you going to get 60,000 square foot in this town? You know, and the cost of renting that, the cost of remodeling it. You know, there's no courtroom available, so you'd have to remodel that.
Yeah.
Not that it's
and you wouldn't want to do it
but
piecemeal because you'd have all the noise and everything,
Right.
and the dust and everything else in there while people are trying to work and all of that. So, well, the other thing, you've got some info you wanted to put out, maybe some misconceptions. Joe Skinner. I'm sorry, I should have introduced you guys. Don Seifert and Joe Skinner here, Gallatin County Commissioners.
Good morning.
Glad to have you guys in again. So,
Jump right in as long as we're here.
Right. Yeah, just jump right in anywhere.
Well, I've heard some misinformation letters to the editor, and people just stopping me on the street, you know, that are wondering. And one of the things is the cost per square foot. I know there's a letter to the editor that was saying we're spending $500 a square foot, and we are if you take the total cost with the total square footage. But that's not really apples and apples when you compare construction costs. Really, the construction cost of that building is about around $52 million. That brings it down to around $390 a square foot, which is really comparable to other facilities across the nation. So we're not out of line there. The other costs come into permitting, impact fees, site preparation, demolition
Yeah.
of the old facility. There's a lot of contingency built into that $65 million. So
How compliant is the current law and justice with ADA?
It's not.
I didn't think it was.
No,
I mean,
we've done a lot of remodels in there to bring
I know
it
you got
kind of up to
you got a
date.
handicapped entrance down on the what, north side, I guess, or
Yeah.
north edge of the building.
We've made as many advances in ADA as we can in that building, but the truth is we can't do any more.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking the restrooms probably aren't.
We actually have had an
have you-
employee just recently that was in a wheelchair that couldn't get into the bathroom.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. I think that the county building, some of those stalls are a little
Right.
Yeah.
shaky too.
Yeah.
Well, they were actually built to code when they were built.
When they were built, yeah.
This building wasn't even built to code when it was built.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
okay. Let's take a phone call. 522 Talk is the number. Caller, you're on the air with the county commissioners. What's up?
Yeah, so you're talking about the remodel, and I'd like to ask the question of like the firemen up there in Big Sky. Okay, we had to remodel the Fire Station 1 and then shared some stuff with Madison up on Fire Station 2. That puts people out a lot, and you're only talking a minimum amount of firefighters per shift. So I don't know what some of the commissioners there might have experienced, or what they heard about those remodels, but it takes a lot longer. You run into problems that are unexpected, and there does come a point where you're remodeling some parts and you find out, wow, this has been done 6 times before. Who knows what's gone on with the L&J? I've only been here 25 years, just slightly under, but yeah, sometimes you just gotta just say, take the bullet, man, and get it
Well, the whole
build a new
side of
one.
it was done back in the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
After the fire,
Yeah,
they
if you remember that, yeah.
did some remodel there, and we know there is asbestos in the building too, so we don't know, if we remodel what that's going to
Situation
mean.
of that,
And it's
And that just adds up so much extra cost. So
and you can guess what might be behind those walls, but until you begin to take them out, you don't really know. And to bring that thing up to codes, and not even code, but to bring it up to a workable building where you might have to put some IT in there and run some cables for everything that courtrooms need and sheriff's office needs.
Yeah. Another question we had come up real quick, Chris, and hang on for just a second. I'll ask this.
Sure.
I want to do it while I'm thinking about it. Were the plans put out to bid? I mean, did you ask people to
we bid
submit
the
that?
architect.
Okay.
Yeah.
We went through a bidding process.
So
to
you went
bid the
through a bidding
architect.
process to get the plans made.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we've
Okay.
been actually working with that architect for 4 or 5 years because that was the architect that we had with the city plans.
Yeah, the original.
So a lot of that information we reused, as far
Okay,
as the
so we don't
scoping
have an
and that
additional cost from the other law and justice centers. It's minimal cost. I would
Minimal,
say, yeah.
The other one was when we were going with the city before they left and went on their own.
Yeah.
That was 2 buildings.
Right.
But we had all the space requirements and all of that, and so they used all
So
that
they could just
information.
jury rig that down
Yeah.
to where it would be.
And a lot of
whatever's
that
today.
basic building
Yeah.
too, and the needs for that. It's often forgot that the sheriff's portion of that is an essential services, and so built part of the building, and so there's a lot higher standard that adds to the cost of construction, redundancy in systems, all that type of stuff.
Right.
Too.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I wanted to get that in.
No, that's great because there is a deal. There's what the architects say, and then there comes the reality, and it doesn't match because unless you've remodeled, unless you've been in that industry, you don't understand what people do in the offices. Okay, they try their best, but when you get out there in the field, it's a whole different can of worms. And I do like what somebody said earlier. I just barely caught it. Yeah, you want to spend money in more parks and trails, well, you go ahead. But I would have been against this in the past. and I have been against it, but you know what? I'm just saying, hey, you can't afford to live here anyways. So might as well just keep it the way it is, or make it a little harder, because we'll learn to live with it, and you'll forget about it in the end run. There's more things in life that's stressed over on a daily deal than, the Law and Justice Center. I'm just saying, vote for it, throw in the towel.
Thanks a lot.
You got the hay.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take one more call, then we got to take a break. Caller, you're on the air with the county commissioners. What's up?
Well, I wonder why they're tearing that down when they need so much storage. They're saying there's not enough storage for evidence and other county papers, so why tear it down? Even if it isn't ADA for people, or if it isn't this or that, you can store papers. It's just like when they tore down the old jail. They could have stored a lot of paperwork and evidence in there, and they didn't have to tear it down. You guys, in Europe, the police stations and the judges are all in 1,000-year-old buildings, and we got to have something brand new every time we turn around. We just don't even think about it. I'm just really tired of paying taxes here. Well, of course, I'm moving out of here soon because I just can't take it anymore. When you have to pay $50 to have chickens, and you have to pay all this money for walking trails, it's just too much. You guys, the city taxed on one thing, and now the county's tacking on another thing. Yeah, no, it's just endless. You guys better research and think what you want and stop trying to have everything. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks for the call. We got to take a quick break. We'll have you guys address that when we come back right after this. Stay tuned. All right. We're back with the county commissioners. Let's take a few phone calls. Caller, you are on the air. What's going on?
Yeah, how are you? I was kind of spurred to call, I guess it was 2 callers ago. Mm-hmm. He was talking about how expensive it is to live up there. And I pay attention to economics in a big scale, and I'm wondering if the commissioner is familiar with what are called sovereign wealth funds. I learned the other day that the city of Chicago privatized their parking meters. So now the owner of the parking meters is a kingdom in the Middle East. United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
Now, is Montana getting suckered by sovereign wealth funds, where they're buying the school bond issues, or they're buying the parks and bridges, and are the sovereign wealth funds trying to work their way into the area?
Boy, you got me on that one.
Not that I know of.
I would think once a bond is paid, you're out of it. You don't have any. We
don't have any say on who buys the bond.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be any ownership equity in whatever the bond was.
And whoever buys the bond doesn't get any controlling interest in the way that
way
money's
it's spent
handled
or
once it's
whatever.
done,
yeah. So it's pretty. Yeah, well, we had the same thing with the L.A. ports one time, owned by different people. But I don't think the city or the county is open to selling the Middle East any part of Gallatin County, are you?
No, not too excited
And
about
to
that.
their credit, they don't have a mansion or a Bearcat.
Well, I learned the other day also that there were 2 different companies that ended up with 80 million houses.
Wow.
Or excuse me, 80 million units. Mm-hmm. You remember in the subprime crash of 10
they
years?
came in and bought them up, and
And there's now one company that I'm not sure if I heard it right. It might be 2 companies between them own 80 million units in America. Now that's just like colony economics.
Yeah.
You see the previous caller talking about how expensive it's gotten. Well, maybe is there a way of studying who owns these 80 million units around the country? And is Montana particularly hard hit by it? Should there be $1,000 a month for if the minimum wage isn't going to get over $7 an hour, $1,000 a month for rent on anywhere is out of the ballpark.
I'm not sure we can blame foreign interest on that, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Shane.
The caller's right in his concern. Here's how it works. If the bond isn't managed or paid by the city, and the holder of the bond isn't being paid, then they can move, as in the case of a Canadian company that just won $1 billion deal against Venezuela. Now they're going to grab the Venezuelan oil company Citgo in the U.S. So that sovereign fund could actually go in and acquire the asset because they haven't met their obligations. So it's a fair concern that he's expressing.
And it's happening in America.
All over.
And the idea that it's like we've known of these dictatorships. In fact, I think there was an old CIA guy, Philip Agee, in the 1960s that was warning America about it, and he wrote a book about how these fat cats were pulling these scams, and he had to go live on the run in, I don't remember where, Cuba or someplace.
We're kind of getting away from our topic here a little bit, but
well, it's whether
it is.
Sure that America doesn't become a colony.
Yeah, no, it's a legitimate concern, and we appreciate the call. Thanks
we could give statehood to Saudi Arabia and then get rid of those guys.
Well, there you are. Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
We'll be Saudi Montana. All right, thanks for the call. All right, and Joe, you had some figures you were going to give us as well.
I've got a lot of things that I could talk about. We don't have much time, but one thing I've heard.
Well, you can hang over if you want to.
From several, well, maybe we will.
Yeah.
From several people is, they're upset about the county and city separating, and I understand that. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, well, we're not going to vote for it because we're going to pretty much punish the commission.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to punish us.
Yeah.
You're going to punish yourselves because this project is going to cost more next time.
Yeah,
it's going to come back.
For you guys.
It's going to cost more. Yeah. The city, there's a lot of blame out there to the county because we split with the city. We could talk a lot about that, but the city left our project. And
2 times.
For good reasons. I'm not saying they did it wrong or right, but they left. We were working together. If you remember right, the voters voted down our joint project, which was a great project in my mind.
Yeah.
And they said no. So the city left to do their own thing. So
let's get in one more phone call before the bottom of the hour. Caller, you're on the air. What's going on? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I was just wondering, why is it going to cost $60 million for a lawn justice center?
Okay.
Couldn't we build it for $20 million out of cinder block? Why does it have to be a perfectly beautiful architectured building?
If you've seen the design, it's not going to be pretty, and it's not going to be cinder block, but it's pretty bare bones. It has to be built to some standard. You can't.
Yeah, it's got to be a code. Yeah.
We can't put up a post and pole building.
Yeah.
Especially with the emergency services and the what's it called?
Essential services.
Essential services. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It has to be built to a certain standard of construction, and we have to meet that standard. And
a lot of that's dictated by the state, is it not?
And
the city
and
the city as well.
And building codes. The after the Mura building blast down in Oklahoma City a number of years ago, that really raised the standard that courthouses need to be built to, and as far as space for parking and a distance away from the building and actual structures as well. So all of that comes into play, and this is not an ostentatious building by any stretch. It does get expensive because there's a lot of site work that needs to be done. It's parking lots, tearing the old building down, hauling it off. There is a lot of expense to that, no question about it. So.
I have a real quick question.
Yeah.
Are there any federal cases heard in this center or going to be heard in this center?
No, this is district court. So state cases. There's a federal court in Missoula and Butte and Billings, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe Helena.
Yeah, this will just be county and county only, I guess.
District.
Yeah, district court.
District court. That's state of Montana versus those types, as well as those cases that originate here in Gallatin County.
Okay. All right.
Well,
hey, thanks for the call. Yeah,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks a lot. We're going to take a break after the bottom of the hour at 40. Do you guys want to stay another 10 minutes? Or
Sure.
That'd be great.
Do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
happy to do that.
We'll keep you on for another short segment, and we'll continue the debate. I guess after that, we've got Don Seifert and Joe Skinner are in the house, and we're glad to have you guys coming back on a regular basis. We missed you. So
we're glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we like to know what's going on with the county, and there's always things. It's a big place.
It is,
and there's a lot here. So
bigger than the state of Delaware.
Well, I know. Yeah. So, and one sheriff. They got 5. I think in Delaware, 5 or 6. I think Rhode Island's got like 5 counties.
Yeah.
We're bigger than them.
That's right.
All right, we'll be back with more with the county commissioners right after the news at the bottom of the hour. They're going to stay with us for about another 10 or 15 minutes, so we'll be right back with more info on the election and what's going on and when we got to get ballots in and all that stuff. We'll be talking about that when we come back. All right, stay tuned. 24 minutes before the top of the hour, we're talking with the county commissioner. Don Seifert's in the house, and Joe Skinner's in the house. And, hey, we're having a high old time here.
Yeah.
And Joe still got some figures he's got to get to us. So
I'm going to let Don talk for a bit.
Okay, go for it, Don.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was ballot returns.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's probably a little late to get them into the post office now to make sure that we get a return on them by Tuesday.
Because it's not postmarked.
It's not the postmark, yeah.
Not the postmark.
Right.
It's when they show up
prepaid,
in the building. Yeah.
So.
And so there's still lots of opportunity. There's places in Belgrade and Three Forks and Bozeman and here at the courthouse. And you don't need to put them into the precinct that you're in. For example, if you're rural and you happen to be in Manhattan at the Garden Cafe, you can just
drop them there.
Yeah, not at the Garden Cafe, but over at the City Hall. City Hall. Yeah. So they don't have to go in the same box that that they're going to be that your precinct is. So there's and you can virtually the city halls in Three Forks, Manhattan, Belgrade, City of Bozeman here at the courthouse. So West Yellowstone. There's one up at Big Sky too. So just get those ballots in there. They'll be collected on.
I can say
Tuesday
most of the city halls have a drop box, do they not?
They all do.
Almost all of them.
They all do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. So wherever you are, you don't have to drive to Bozeman.
But don't mail them now. Drop them off.
Yeah, I was going to say, that they're. I don't know if you mail them today. They probably get there Monday, but
they might.
But just to be sure, it's a good idea to drop them off. And
that's right.
As I say, I always wait till the last minute in case one of you guys decides to body slam someone.
In case we say something stupid here.
Yeah. If you say something really stupid, then I can change my mind.
I hope there's nobody out there holding their breath, right? We sent out about 66,000
ballots,
and we've got about a little over 17,000 back. So that's good.
Yeah.
And we want you to vote.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. No, it's one of the things that separates us from everybody else on the planet. Well, everybody votes, but I don't know, Saddam Hussein winning by 100%. I don't know. Kim Jong-un. I don't know. There's a little suspect there on things like that.
And this, this is an important vote. It really is.
It really is. Yeah.
I always say that if this building that we're talking about really comes down to 6 words. And that's with liberty and justice for all. This is where your liberties are protected. This is where justice is served.
Yeah.
So it's important that the building is good. It's fair to all parties, and so that's really what we're striving for here.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree. Joe, any final thoughts?
The other thing I've heard recently is, why can't the county just save up enough money? Why do you have to put it out to a vote and bond us? Why can't you just save the money? And 2 things. One is we'd never be able to save enough money when we can't hardly operate on the millage we have. We're not going to nearly save that much money for 50 years.
Well, the senior center alone, we've been talking about that.
But to set people's minds a little bit at ease, we have been putting aside money for several years for this project, and that's why we're able to bring it down from 65 to 59.
Yeah.
Plus, we have the millage there built up to maintain and operate the building. So we're not going to come back and ask you for more money to operate this building. We've already got it.
And the interest rates went down as well.
Yeah.
So
interest rates
the bonds are going to be cheaper. The building's actually going to be cheaper than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And construction rates are going up at about 8% a year. So 3 years from now, it's going to cost 25% more for the same building. So
I respect people's opinion, and I respect what they think. If they want to vote no, they should do that. But I'm just saying it's going to cost more next time.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. This is the cheapest you're going to see this project.
Yeah.
And it's a problem that's not going to go away.
Yeah.
We're still going to need it.
Well, we're growing. I mean, there's nothing, as much as people want to keep it this little hamlet it used to be, where it ended at 15th Street.
Yeah.
or 10 or 11th.
We grow at 10 people a day in the county. So just to put that in perspective, that's Three Forks in Manhattan every year.
Yeah.
That number of people moving into the county, be it into the incorporated cities or into the rural parts of the county. It's 10 people a day. That's a lot of folks.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
We'll see you next week.
All
and,
right.
We'll have a lot to talk about next week.
We will.
Sure.
We will.
One way or the other.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for being here. All right. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Shane and I right after this. We'll be back in 90 seconds. 17 minutes before the top of the hour. It's finally Friday, Shane. Holy mackerel. The week went pretty quick this time around.
It did indeed.
Yeah. All right. And 5 things you need to know. We all know about the impeachment from yesterday, so I don't know if we need to cover too much about that. That the House voted for the rules that the only rules are that the Democrats rule, and that's about it. So. But Senator Warren has unveiled her tax plan. She says that she can do it without raising taxes on the middle class to pay for the estimated $34 trillion program. She proposes a $20.5 trillion tax increase over 10 years, and those costs would be covered by increased Internal Revenue Service enforcement. In other words, the IRS is going to come out and get you. Rather than just sitting around sending you threatening letters. They're going to come and get you. And they also, she is, as well as targeted taxes on the financial sector, large corporations, and the top 1%. So the proposal also includes plans for lowering prescription drug and health procedure costs to reduce the demand on health insurance in the first place. And Warren has faced scrutiny for refusing to say taxes would go up for all for the Medicare for all deal. So what do you think, Shane?
Well, the problem I have with Elizabeth Warren is Pocahontas isn't the right name. It's Dishonest Elizabeth. He should nickname her Dishonest. And here's why, folks. She's been asked, will the tax in the middle class go up? And, of course, in Europe, and they compare this to, they're the ones getting slammed with 65 to 68%, tax in Sweden and Norway and all the countries they talk about, number one. Number two, there's a hidden definition of cost because it's like Bill Clinton says, well, it depends on the issue or the definition of what is. Well, her definition is cost in this way. Oh, one of the costs that you're going to have is there's going to be job losses. Because this just came out in the last 24 hours that she's admitted to, people are going to lose their jobs because of this. What? She's a capitalist? She's going to bankrupt your country with this, and people are going to lose their jobs? Dishonest Elizabeth.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Yeah. Also, too, the other thing that we've seen with the Medicare itself is that not all physicians are accepting Medicare.
That's right.
They won't take it because they can't operate their office with strictly just Medicare patients because the government set a standard of what they'll allow you to charge for various, 20-some thousand or 50,000 procedures or whatever number there are. I forget, you had the numbers on that, but...
Right. And you want to listen, make sure you pay attention to the Medicare ad you're hearing on TV about call in because you may have better services. And this is the time where you can apply, and it's a short window because it's only a certain part of the year you can do this. And then they ended up with, if your doctor accepts Medicare.
Right, yeah.
Doctors aren't using or accepting Medicare.
Yeah, or Medicaid in some cases too. Yeah. Well, they can't afford it. And and the other thing is that if they go to this and if they adopt all those standard procedures for Medicare for all, you're going to see people just aren't going to go to medical school. They're not going to put in that amount of time to make 30 grand a year. You know, they're just not. So let's go to the phones. 522 Talk is the number. Caller, you on the morning soapbox with Tom and Shane. What's up?
Morning, guys. It's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
So if this happens to weed out doctors that are only in it for money, I'm all down with that.
Mm-hmm.
And these other countries don't have doctor shortages. Does Canada have a doctor shortage?
Yes, we do. Oh, we have a let me tell you something.
How much is it?
Kamloops is a city of...
Because we have a doctor shortage,
let me give you an
private
example of what you're talking about. Kamloops, your sister city, 500 miles north in BC, 85,000 people. 27,000 people in that city do not have a doctor because there aren't. In what city? Kamloops, BC.
Where's that at?
It's in British Columbia, in Canada.
I mean, we have a doctor shortage down here as well. I mean, basically because they won't let people go to school. And
no, but it's cost to go to school.
That's why the doctors are in.
Insure poor people or what? I don't understand.
Well, that's why all the doctors had to move into the hospital.
What do you mean?
Well, all the medical doctors in town right now have offices in the hospital because they can't afford the same. There are dentist offices all over. They don't have to be in the hospital. There are eye doctors all over the community. They don't have to be in the hospital. But medical doctors can't afford to run an office with the Medicare restrictions and the paperwork and the cost of operating the office. They've got to go into the hospital if they're going to stay in business.
So then let's pay for their college. Let's make medical school free.
Well,
right?
Well, that'd be nice.
I mean, serious. Why is that funny?
Well, it's funny.
Why is this even funny? This isn't funny. People die every day because they don't have insurance.
I'll tell you why it's funny, because sooner or later, a bill shows up on someone's desk.
Yeah, it's called We the People.
That's right.
We the people. All of us get together to take care of each other. That's what this is about.
Yeah. Well, if you want to...
It is not about profits. It is not about money. Let's do what we need to do. Let's pay for their college. Let's get as many doctors through college as we can, ones that want to help people, not make millions of dollars. And let's fix this problem. It's just... I mean, I'm shaking right now because it's just ridiculous. Your guys' argument on the right for health care is so stupid. It's just stupid.
Well, it's not our argument. It's not our argument on the right. In either country, mine or yours.
Shane, in Saskatchewan, their health care is paid for with the 6% sales tax, isn't it?
No, it's paid by.
Are you sure? Someone called the radio yesterday and said that they don't even pay an extra fee for their health care. It's covered.
There's no cost to health care in Canada. There's no cost. There's no cost in Canada health care. You're right. But it's not.
So is your right wing trying to go to our system? Do they want our system?
No. You're missing apples and oranges.
Sucks, dude.
Here's what happens under the system we have that the left in your country wants. We don't have enough doctors. In the United States, if you want an X-ray, it requires a doctor. The MCR, and if you want an MCR, you require a doctor. Not in Canada because we don't have enough of them. So they have therapists. They go to school for 4 or 5 years so they can operate the machines and then turn it over to a specialist that you have to wait. I had to wait a year for an echocardiogram. I went into the hospital, got it done. The procedure was finished. And then I had to wait a month to have my heart specialist call me to call in to see the results. You know, I have a thrombosis. So
you got it done, and did it cost you anything?
Took me a year.
Did you get a bill?
A year.
How big was your bill? Zero?
Well, it was. Of course, I just told you we don't pay for it.
You know how much money you guys save on bankruptcies? How much money do you guys save a year on not having zero bankruptcies? How many do we have? This whole thing is ridiculous.
Medical costs.
Medical bankruptcies. How many do you have a year? Zero, right?
Well, no, because it's a government.
How much?
System.
So
you
much do we spend on medical bankruptcies every year?
You cannot sue a doctor in Canada for malpractice.
Right. You'd probably just file some claim and the government give you some money, right?
No.
So if they chop your leg off and it was the wrong one, you don't get nothing.
That's right.
You're out of luck.
I don't believe that.
Well,
there's no recourse whatsoever.
Nope.
Well, we can so there's one problem with your law that we can put into our law, right? There's 32 single payer programs in the world that we can look to get the best ideas from all 32 of them and make the most ultimate plan ever.
Well,
why can't we do that? We're America.
But the problem with that suggestion is none of them work.
Yeah.
Well, let's figure which one will, because ours doesn't work. That's for sure.
Well, the other thing.
Would you agree with that?
Well,
ours doesn't work.
Well, there's problem with it with any medical situation, Mike. I mean, there's no perfect system there's no perfect system we can come up with that's gonna answer every question and every medical procedure and every that's going to satisfy everybody.
Right.
The problem
is nothing's perfect.
I understand that, but the problem is that we have, if you want to point to a medical system in the world that services 300 million people, I'm down with that. You know, Canada's got 10% less people, 10% of the people we have.
That's a bad argument because insurance is the more higher number your risk pool is, the cost goes down. That's insurance.
Well,
That's
if
what
there's fair
insurance
competition to buy that insurance, and look, let me try it this way. Look, if you don't have insurance and you have to pay it individually, you see what's happening. Okay, the Affordable Care Act was the Affordable Insurance Act, and because
that was the Republican plan.
No,
that was the Republican plan.
No.
Yeah, it was Omnicare, dude. The Heritage Foundation took that on for a while.
But he wouldn't allow
Republican
competition.
Plan.
No, but the way you get insurance costs down is to allow competition. The wider the pool of people of buying insurance, the more money there is to reduce the cost of medicine. The problem right now is the insurance industry in your country is at a tipping point because millennials, they're not buying life insurance, very little home insurance. They're only buying insurances they have to do. And when the Affordable Care Act came along, guess what? They didn't buy that either. So you have
because
to have
it got ding full of holes and it's crap. That's why. Because if they would have passed it in its entirety, it would have worked.
You're saying. I'm not arguing. You want a solution. The solution is regulate the price of every procedure in the medical industry so it's not different everywhere, and allow insurance companies to compete to get your money to create the pool to fund it.
But they don't want to do that.
Somehow.
I mean, just yesterday, the Senate voted to get rid of the pre-existing condition clause. Luckily, it was filibustered. I mean, they just want to make billions. That's all they care about. They don't care about taking care of you. There's whole floors on hospitals that are just people that call insurance companies trying to get them to pay for things. We don't need that floor on the hospital. We can take care of people on that floor.
You can regulate. Agreed.
Well, but then regulations they just get stomped on all the time by lobbyists.
Well, that's our system, you know?
That's right.
Well, I don't know, man. So you think that would cover everybody and our costs would go down?
I don't think there's I don't think there's anything that's going to cover everybody
except for Medicare for all.
No.
That's not going to work. It'll bankrupt your country. That'll bankrupt your country.
Yeah.
No, it won't. It's going to the Cato Institute said it would cost $32 trillion over 10 years. We're expected to pay 34 right now, and we're not even covering 30 million people.
Budget.
All right, hang on, guys. We're going around in circles here. I got to get the rush update in, or we're gonna go into the top of the hour.
All right, love you guys.
Sorry. Hey, thanks for the call. Hey, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. All right, we'll be right back. The rush update ran into the top of the hour, so we had to end our program there.